week is the portion called Shemos. And this portion is the portion where Moses is chosen to be the leader of the Jewish people and to take us out of the Egyptian exile. And so what does Moshe do when he's asked by Hashem to lead the Jewish people? Yes, Gloria.
He says he's not talented enough. He doesn't speak well. Choose somebody else.
That's 100% correct. You're right. He tries to get out of it. And not only does he try to get out of it, but he ultimately says, a very interesting line. He says, Shlach no biyad tishlach. Send, please, in the hands of the one who you're going to send in the future. And who is that? In other words, Moshe tried to pass on the buck to someone else. Who was the other person? What did you say, Ben?
Aaron or the Messiah? I don't know who's.
That's right. Aaron was one person he wanted, but here when he says this, Shlach no biyad tishlach, he's talking about Mashiach. That's right, Ben. Very good. So he told Hashem, he says, what do you need to deal with two people? Just do the one you're going to use in the end. Let him be the redeemer for the whole thing. And of course, number one, what we see from here is the great humility that Moshe Rabbeinu had, and that he was totally not interested in the greatness and that he could have had, that Hashem wanted him to have. He was totally didn't interest him, did not excite him, and he would have much rather been a simple individual rather than a leader. But Hashem obviously didn't accept his request, and Hashem said, sorry, it's going to be you. And so Moshe had to accept it. So the interesting thing is that Moshe felt that it should be Mashiach. And what that means is that even though Hashem didn't accept it, but nevertheless, there must be some great similarity between Moshe's mission and Mashiach's mission. And because of that, Moshe says, listen, what are you asking me for? Mashiach is doing the same. He's exactly in the same boat. You should use Mashiach instead of me. So Moshe tells Hashem, please let Mashiach be the leader and let him take the Jewish people out. And leave me, let me just be myself. I don't want to be in charge. I'm not looking for honor or respect and public office. I don't need all of that. And so Moshe is basically telling us Mashiach is the same, has the same qualities, the same talent, the same everything that Hashem would want in Moshe, Mashiach has. So what's interesting is that what is it? What is important? What is the connection that Moshe feels that Mashiach is the perfect candidate to take the Jewish people out of the Egyptian exile? Like maybe it's a different, who says that it's the same? What's the similarity? In what way is the Egyptian exile, the leader, the person who's going to take them out, how is that the same as Mashiach? Mashiach has some other elements to him, and so we need to understand what is the criteria of Mashiach and what is Moshe all about? And how is it that Moshe is sort of connected somehow to Mashiach, that they have maybe a similar type of some type of talent that's similar between the two of them? I know some of you wanted to speak. Ben, did you want to say something? Or Gloria?
Yeah, I wanted to say the similarity is that the Mashiach is supposed to bring all the Jews back into Israel, including the bones of those that cannot move by themselves. And
So,
Moses was doing the same thing. He brought some bones with him too.
Right. Well, not only the bones, Mashiach is going to bring, I mean, at some point during the time of Mashiach, there's going to be Techias HaMesim. It's not just bringing bones. This is going to be a resurrection, which means the whole body is going to be rebuilt and the life will come back. So that's true. Very good point. And Gloria, what did you want to add?
No, I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say a difference. One difference is that I'm assuming that Moshiach does not have a speech problem. And Moses was very hung up on the fact that he did have a speech issue.
Oh, interesting. Nice point. There is seems to be a difference there with Moshe having this speech impediment. And the interesting thing is, Hashem told Moshe, "You think that's a problem? Who creates the mouth? Who misam pelo adam? Who places the mouth in a person? The same way you got the speech impediment, I could easily heal it like that. But in the end, Hashem didn't exactly heal it because Moshe had Aaron be his spokesman. So in the end, Aaron was the spokesman. But in a certain sense, it's almost like Moshe could have gotten rid of the speech impediment. But that's a good point, Gloria. So the idea of this lecture this is an essay from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it compares Moshe to Mashiach and Moshe to the final redemption. It tries to touch upon what is the similarity between Moshe and Mashiach, and how do we know, where do we see this? That Moshe, because in a certain sense, it seems interchangeable. It seems like Moshe could have been the final redeemer as well, and it seems like Mashiach could have been the redeemer from Egypt. It seems like, in a certain sense, it goes both ways, because we're basically saying that Moshe and Mashiach are interchangeable. So what do we find with regard to the final redemption that connects with Moshe, and in what sense is Moshe and Mashiach in that same league? So in order to understand this, so we got to find out what is the main involvement or job of Mashiach. What is his main criteria, I should say? What is the characteristic of Mashiach that's so important?
Rabbi Smith.
Yes.
I feel like I'm hearing your voice echoing from other people's speakers when you're speaking.
Let me mute everyone and let's see if this helps. Now, I don't see you. Do I? No, I don't see you. So I'm not going to know if it's good, but you can unmute yourself, David, and then I'll know. So the main criteria of Mashiach is that he is hoige b'Torah. He toils in Torah, which is a little surprising. It's not totally surprising, because that's definitely a very important factor. But you might have thought that his main involvement is leadership, something, somehow connected to Jewish unity, or Jewish culture. There must be a million things that you could think of that are important for a leader. And what the Rambam writes, and one of the main things of Mashiach is that he's hoige b'Torah. And the Rambam Maimonides writes that he has to be toiling in Torah similar to King David. And so the characteristic of Mashiach to be able to redeem the Yidden comes from the Torah. That's really his main theme. Yes, Yehuda.
Yeah. Well, who Moshe toiled in the Torah, he brought it down from Mount Sinai.
Right. Moshe's involvement with Torah is not surprising. I'm just thinking of the way people think about leadership. See, Moshe, we know already. We it's hindsight is 2020. We know that Moshe's inyan was Torah. But
Right.
when we talk about Mashiach and the way people think about leadership, there definitely is room to think that maybe Mashiach is all about, has different dimensions of what leadership should be for Mashiach. You may say that it's that it has some, it might have something to do, as I said, like with maybe Jewish unity, uniting the Jewish people. It might have something to do with inspiring people. But what the first thing, I think it's the first thing that Maimonides writes, Hoigev a Torah kedavid aviv. Let me just pull out of Maimonides right here. The end of the Rambam, the total end is where he talks about the coming of Mashiach. It's interesting that none of the other books of law, code of law, talk about the time of Mashiach. Maimonides is unique that he wrote the laws of Mashiach, and he writes here that if a person comes from the house of David, Hoige b'Torah, who diligently contemplates the Torah, v'oisek b'mitzvahs, and he does mitzvahs kedavid aviv. So the first thing is that he's Hoige b'Torah. That's number one. He diligently contemplates the Torah. And then, of course, it has some other elements to it. According to the Torah, the written Torah, the oral Torah. And then it mentions V'Yakov Kol Yisrael Leilech Ba U'Lechazek Bidka. He motivates the Yidden to go in the Torah and strengthen their breaches, and he fights the war of Hashem. This is Bechezkas, assumably that he is Mashiach. We may assume that he is Mashiach. So these are the three things that are very important. That he does.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I thought he also would have to, I thought he also would have to decide all the halachot that were decided. The Talmud didn't have an answer to.
That's
that
Elijah.
was divided, then Mashiach would decide what the answer is.
So that
Elijah,
really is,
not Mashiach?
that's Elijah. Tishbi yataretz kushyois v'ibayis teku. Tishbi, Eliyahu ha-Tishbi. Tishbi yataretz kushyas v'ibayis. So that's really Elijah's
Okay, I
job.
thought it was Mashiach.
Yeah, that's really Elijah. So
Okay,
Mashiach,
thank you.
his main thing is Torah, which gives us a little, obviously Mashiach is going to be a scholar, there's no question. But the thought you might have is that he might have, you may think that there's other elements of leadership that are very important. And what we see here is that the Torah is the number one element for Mashiach. I'll give you an example. I used to have a guy who lived across the street from me when I was a child, and he was a great scholar. And he was very involved in politics. And he used to tell us, he'd come over to our house for Shabbos every so often for a Shabbos meal. But he used to tell us, I could have been like these great rabbis there, that are popular and famous. But what can I do? I had to help save, I'm constantly trying to save lives. And he's running back and forth to flying to different countries and dealing in politics with communal matters. And interesting guy, very interesting fellow. Anyway, but the point is that person may think that that's really what who Mashiach really is. And I'm not minimizing that. If I don't know if this man really accomplished what he claimed he accomplished, but I'm not minimizing the importance of that. But my point is that the idea, the main mission of Mashiach is going to be very similar, has a very strong similarity to Moshe Rabbeinu, who brought the Torah down from Har Sinai. That is a major part of it. That's number one. So number one is he's Hoige b'Torah, and number two is that the Torah is called Torah's Moshe. We call the Torah Moshe's Torah. So what we can see from there is that the ability to redeem the Klal Yisrael comes from the fact it initiates from Moshe. In other words, if we're calling the Torah Moshe's Torah, which the Gemara seems to say very clearly that the Torah is Moshe Rabbeinu, so to speak. It says that Moshe then gave it to the Jewish people. But the Torah is called the Torah of Moshe. And Mashiach is a continuation of someone who's Hoige b'Torah, someone who's toiling in Torah. That means he's taking the energy from Moshe Rabbeinu and he is extending it, he is continuing it, he is bringing it to the next level. So the idea of Mashiach is a major part, is that he's continuing what Moshe Rabbeinu started. Now, there is a pasuk, there is a verse that says, Ad ki yavoi Shiloi, until Shiloi will come. And that pasuk, that verse, is a hint for until the time of Mashiach. So the Talmud says, what is the name of Mashiach? Talmud has a few names. One of them is Shiloi, because the Chumash uses the term Shiloi when it talks about Mashiach. The Gemara has a few names for Mashiach. One is Menachem Shemai, Yanai Shemai, and Shiloi Shemai. It has a number of names that it says this is the name of Mashiach. These students felt this is the name of Mashiach, and other students felt another name was Mashiach. So the name of Mashiach is hinted to in numerous psukim, but one of them is Ad ki yavoi Shiloi. Now, if you take the gematria, the numerical value of yavoi Shiloi, of these two words, what do you get? You get Mashiach. So if you add yavoi and Shiloi together, you get Mashiach. What about if you just take the word Shiloi? You get Moshe Rabbeinu. If you add up the numerical value of Shiloi, you get Moshe. So the connection between Moshe and Mashiach is very clear. Now, this is true that Moshe and Mashiach are very connected, but at the same time, they are also different, because Moshe comes from the tribe of Levi, the Levite tribe, and Mashiach comes from the tribe of Judah. King David comes from King David, from the tribe of Judah. So there definitely is a difference there, but at the same time, they are both very connected, because Moshe is the originator of bringing the Torah down to earth from Hashem, And Mashiach is continuing that and bringing the Torah to the people in the time of when Mashiach, when time of the revelation happens. That is Mashiach's job, is the Hoyga b'Torah, the toiling in Torah, and being able to strengthen any breaches that the Jewish people have. This is the job of Moshe and Mashiach, and Mashiach gets it from Moshe. He's a continuation. In other words, Moshe is the he gives the power. He empowers Mashiach. That's really the idea here, that Moshe empowers Mashiach to do his job. Now, if you take these gematrias, you have Yavai and Shilai, so together that equals Mashiach, and just Shilai itself is Moshe. That means that if you take Yavai, the revelation of Moshe is Mashiach. Yavai means he comes. When Shilai comes, which means when Moshe reveals himself, that's Mashiach. So Mashiach is like a revealed state of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now there is another gematria that Yavai is the gematria, which means the numerical value. Again, every Hebrew letter has a numerical value, and the numerical value of the word Yavai is also the word Echad, which we say in Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Echad means oneness, unity, uniting. And the Echad also means the one God over the 7 heavens and the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 directions. So you have, in fact, when we say Shema, we're supposed to have in mind that Hashem is one over the 7 heavens and 1 earth. That's the Ches. The letter Ches means 8. And the letter Daled means 4, which means the 4 directions. So next time you say Shema tonight, when you say the Shema, you have in mind that Hashem is king over everything. And that's the word Echad means the Aleph is 1. Hashem is the Alufay Shalaylam, the master of the world, 1. Over the Ches, over the 7 plus 1, the 7 heavens and 1 earth. And Daled means the 4 directions, the north, south, east, and west, are the Hashem is over all 4 directions. So that means that the word Echad, if you connect that with Moshe, you get Mashiach, because Yavai is gematria Echad, and Shilai is gematria Moshe, and Yavai and Shilai together equal Mashiach. So I'm giving you some nice numbers. It's good for those that enjoy gematrias, that enjoy numerical. There are certain people that really have a great enjoyment when they hear certain words equal other words. It's that maybe they have a mathematical brain, but the idea is that we learn things from gematrias. Gematria is a real lesson. It's not just something cute. Gematria, the Talmud uses gematria. Gematria is brought in Kabbalistic books as well. It means that there's a essential point that is equal in these 2 words, that the word of Shilai and the word Moshe is essentially connected. There is something internal that connects these 2 words, and therefore it has the same numerical value. So let's summarize what we've stated until now, that the idea of redemption that Moshe was trying to get out of and wanting to pass it on to Mashiach, that idea is that Moshe and Mashiach do have a very strong connection, and that connection is the empowerment that Moshe gives to Mashiach. And the way Moshe gives that empowerment to Mashiach is, number 1, through Torah, and number 2, that it's connected to the idea of Echad. And Echad is something that we'll talk about a little later, but it's this idea that Moshe, which symbolizes Torah, and Echad, which we'll see means connecting Hashem with the world. Together, that's what brings about the coming of Mashiach. So you are infusing, so to speak, the world with Torah, with Hashem, with godliness, that is the way Mashiach is able to come. So it sort of gives us a understanding. What we're getting at here is that there is some clarity as to what our mission is here on earth. And where do we see this? Where does it, how do you develop this thought? Let's develop this a little further. So the world was created complete. Everything was fine. The world was spiritual. Adam and Eve, very holy people. They were created. The world was called Al Milui Nivra. It was created as a complete creation, spiritual. They were living in Gan Eden. Everything was fine and dandy. What happened? The sin of the tree of knowledge, Eitz Hadas. Eve was seduced by the snake. And the Talmud and the Talmud mentions that the Zuhama, the impurity, became connected to Eve. Eve became connected to Zuhama. Zuhama is like dirt or impurity. It was
Filth.
It became attached to Eve and to the world, and all of a sudden there's death in the world. There are negative things in the world. Let me mute everyone. And that's what happened when the sin of the tree of knowledge. However, guess what happened afterwards? We got the Torah. When the Torah was given to the Jewish people, what happened? It says we became free from that impurity. Sounds great, right? But what happened after that? We sinned with the golden calf. All of a sudden, we got back impurity. And we still have it now until Mashiach comes, we're going to get rid of the impurity. So the impurity that we got from the sin of the tree of knowledge, we lost it. We got rid of it with the giving of the Torah. Then we got the impurity back when we sinned with the golden calf. Now, the Torah tells us, and it's brought in the Talmud really, that there's a concept of Yerida L'Tzairech Aliyah, that you sometimes fall down in order to go back to go up higher. It's almost like sometimes you have to go down a rung in a ladder in order to have the momentum to go higher. You got to first go down a little and then you can go up. Or sometimes you have to pull something. You pull a arrow backwards on the bow, and then it'll fly much further. Yerida L'Tzairech Aliyah. You have to go down in order to go up. Sometimes such a thing is necessary, or often. So it's brought in Hasidic books, in many writings, that all of the downfalls that we come across, everything that we come across that's going down, is really in order to get higher. I'll give you an example. You sometimes get into a fight with someone, sometimes a relative. When you end up making up with that person, your bond could even be much stronger than if you never had a falling out with them, because you've been able to express yourself with the person. You've been able to reach a deeper connection with the person because you had that falling out. On a medical level, when you break a bone, the orthopedic doctors always claim that where it heals, it actually gets stronger because the healing tissue grows over that break and it gets even bigger to make it even stronger than it was before. It's called the Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. These are all ideas that sometimes falling is actually brings you to a higher place than you would have been before. So when I say the Hasidic books mention this idea, what they explain is when you sin, you actually end up getting closer to Hashem afterwards. Because through your sin, you feel far away from Hashem. And by feeling far away from Hashem, you strengthen yourself to want to get close. You have a hunger to get closer and a passion, and you're able to get much closer to Hashem. So Kabbalistic writings emphasize that this idea applies to all of the sins, to your personal sins as well. Anything, any mistakes you've made in life. It's always a Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. It would have been better not to fall into that trap. But now that you fell into that trap, it actually could be a benefit for you because you'll actually gain from it. Better don't do it in the first place. But if you did it, guess what? You will gain more afterwards. So the same thing applies to all of these sins. The sin of the tree of knowledge, that the fact that we fell with the sin of the tree of knowledge, after we had the Torah given to us, we actually reached a higher level than we were before the tree of knowledge. What happened when we got the Torah? Hashem chose the Jewish people. There was a Bechira, which is a Bano Bacharta Mikol Ha'amim. It says that by the giving of the Torah, Hashem chose the Jewish people. You know what would have happened if we didn't sin with the tree of knowledge, and we wouldn't have had this element of the essence of Hashem loving the Jewish people? Because we sinned with the tree of knowledge, then Hashem chose the Jewish people to become his nation. In other words, otherwise we would have been the only people here. Only because we sinned with the tree of knowledge did Hashem create all of the non-Jews. And that caused that Hashem had to choose the Jewish people from the essence of his desire that he chose us. So was it good that we sinned with the tree of knowledge? Yes and no. It would have been better not to sin. But it actually worked out good. It actually works out good. We sinned and we benefited from it. So everything that looks, that's bad, but really, in essence, there's something positive that's meant to come out from it. So we gained by the sin of the tree of knowledge, because then Hashem chose the Jewish people later on to be his nation. Now, not only does that mean that Hashem shined a certain revelation by choosing the Jewish people, but it also was that the Jewish people, we, through getting the Torah, we became elevated essentially to a higher level that we would not have been before the giving of the Torah, before the sin of the tree of knowledge. So how do we see this? Because even after we sinned with the golden calf, we never reached the impurity level. We didn't fall down as hard as we fell after the sin of the tree of knowledge, meaning the tree of knowledge brought us to a lower level than the sin of the golden calf. Why? Because once we got the Torah, we were on a higher level. Essentially, we internalized. There was something that connected to us internally that allowed us to be. It was impossible to take us to such a low level that we were on before when we sinned with the tree of knowledge. So again, we sinned with the golden calf, but we didn't fall down as low as we fell earlier. Why didn't we fall down as low as we fell earlier? We didn't fall down as low because we had already had a major change from the giving of the Torah, that it had an impact on us. We were impacted by the revelation at Sinai internally. We became on a higher level. So again, there's two parts to being elevated. When a person sins, or when we had global sins, there's two qualities, there's two benefits that happen. Number one is we get a bigger revelation later from God. And number two, we internalize holiness better. In other words, after you sin and then you fall and then you elevate yourself afterwards, that elevation brings us to a better era, to a better situation for two reasons. Number one, we have a revelation from heaven always that's greater. We get a greater revelation, similar to the revelation when Mashiach, when we got the Torah. And the ability for us to internally elevate ourselves, become more refined people, better people, that also is elevated when we reconnect to Hashem from on a higher level. And so I think it's important to mention, if you want to apply this to yourself, we all have regrets in life. Everyone makes mistakes, whether it was a bad investment, we invested and we lost the money, we made some mistakes with individuals, we made some mistakes between us and God. All of these mistakes, there's always something positive that is meant to come out of it. Every failure, there is something great that will come out of it. You lose your job, it's in order that you're going to reach something better. You're going to be able to look around and you'll find something even better afterwards. Sickness, person is sick, there's something that they gain from that. There's stronger trust in Hashem, whatever it was, that after they get better, they're going to say, you know what? It was a blessing in disguise or something. There's something that we benefit. Of course, life isn't easy and we go through challenging situations, and there's no question that things are very painful. But the same thing is our guilt from sins. We've done this, we did this wrong, we said the wrong thing to someone, he got embarrassed and he was hurt. And all of these things, there's something that we gain afterwards that we elevate to a higher level. So the same thing is with the global sins that we talk about, the sin of the tree of knowledge, the sin of the golden calf. There's something that the Jewish people benefit afterwards. And the same thing is when Mashiach comes. We are now suffering because we are suffering from the sin of the golden calf. We have that impurity that came back to us. We may not be as low as we were when Eve sinned, but we're still very low. We're at a very low level because we have that zuhama, this impurity that has attached itself to us from when the golden calf happened. And when is that going to be removed from us? So the Torah tells us that I will remove the impurity. I'm going to get rid of the level of impurity from the face of the earth. And it also says that I will death will be removed forever. That when Mashiach comes, we're going to have, even though now we had a failure, worship the golden calf, but nevertheless, when Mashiach comes, we're going to get rid of all the impurity, and we are going to reach a stage where everything's going to be perfect forever, where we're going to get rid of death completely. There won't be any more death at all. And so that is a higher level than we reached even when we got the Torah. Because when we got the Torah, guess what happened? There was potential to sin. The proof is we did. We sinned with the golden calf. We might have been on a high level, but it wasn't a perfect level. When Mashiach comes, we're going to reach a level where we're going to be totally perfect. There won't be any more potential. There won't be any more idea of sin, because Hashem is going to wipe away the idea of impurity, the potential for impurity from the face of the earth. Ruach HaTumah, the spirit of impurity, will be wiped away from the face of the earth. So the idea here is that Moshe is going to give us this ability from the giving of the Torah, and if we connect it with the concept of Echad, we are now going to be able to reach a level where we can reach this level of the coming of Mashiach. How do we do that? What does this mean? So the Shema, if we take this idea of the Shema, So we end Hashem Echad. We end the Shema sentence with Hashem Echad. Hashem is one. What does Echad really mean? Well, there are two words for one. There is Yachid and there is Echad. We could say Hashem is the only one, which would be Yachid. Interestingly, we don't. We only say Echad. Echad means one, but Echad is one of the numbers. We could say Yachid, which means singular. Singular is a term that means there's no potential for two. Echad means there's potential for two. Echad means one. One means you're the first, maybe, but there's also possibly a second coming, or a third, or a fourth. One doesn't exclude a two, but a singular excludes a two. So Yachid, on a simple level, would be maybe more apropos than Echad. But we know, of course, we say the word Echad. What is the reason? Because when you say Yachid, what happens? What you're saying is there's only one Eibishter, there's one God. But when you say Hashem Echad, what you're saying is that there are other entities in the world, but they are all subservient to Hashem. If you just say Yachid, what you're implying is that there is nothing else in the world, in no other entity at all. It's only Hashem. When you say Echad, what you're saying is that there are actually other entities in the world, but they are totally subservient to Hashem, that Hashem is the one who runs everything in the world, and there's no other existence that's absolute. There's no other absolute existence. Everything is dependent on Hashem. That Hashem is the master of everything, meaning there are other entities. Hashem created stuff, but he's the master of them. But not that there aren't other entities. They're everything Hashem created in the world. So in a certain sense, it actually shows the greatness of Hashem by saying that the world is going to reflect Hashem, because it is Hashem is in charge, and Hashem is shining through the entire world. So in a certain sense, what this means is that the purpose in the entire creation is that Hashem should shine in everything in the world. Not that we should destroy everything and all you have is Hashem. The goal is that everything should exist, but it's infused with the holiness of Hashem. Hashem's godliness permeates everything, directs everything. Everything is there, but it's just reflecting Hashem. Until now, guess what? Everything that we have in the world, it hides Hashem. Your radio is one of the most clear deniers of God. The radio, the TV, all these things that waste time and make they hide Hashem from the world. These are all things that deny Hashem. They deny God. They make you think that the evil people are in charge, and God has no say, and things are going to happen, and that's what these are called, deniers of God. That's everything in the world is like that. The word world, olam, if you know Hebrew, olam means concealment, helam, concealment. And that's what the world is. It denies God. Now, when we say Hashem is echad, what we're saying is that Hashem is going to be shining in everything in the world. That means soon the radios are going to be revealing that there's only one Eibishter, that there's one God who runs everything, and everyone else who thought that they have, that they know things and that they are in charge of things and they're deciding things, it's all nonsense. That's what the radio is supposed to reflect. It's supposed to reflect Hashem. And that's why the more Torah we have going over the internet, we are now reflecting Hashem in the world. And then when we, wherever we go, wherever a Yid goes, he's supposed to be a representative of Hashem. That means he's shining Hashem in everything. So it's not about destroying all the radios in the world. It's about reflecting Hashem in all the radios in the world. So if we said Yachid, Hashem is Yachid, what we would be emphasizing is that all this other stuff, it shouldn't be here, and it's not, and it's we got to get rid of it, and so on. And when you say Echad, what you're saying is that everything in the world is really there to reflect Hashem, that it's all dependent on Hashem. And the only reason the radio is able to deny Hashem is because Hashem himself allows it to deny Hashem now until Mashiach comes. That even the denial of Hashem is from Hashem. That's what we're saying when we say Echad. Hashem is one because he's even allowing himself to be hidden. He is the one who's the source of his hiddenness. It's all from him. Even the hiddenness is from him. It's not that the evil they're capable of hiding Hashem. Hashem is allowing himself to be hidden. So the idea of Echad is a very high level of realizing, acknowledging that everything in the world is meant to reflect God. That's the idea of Echad, and that's what the word means. Aleph means the Alufai Shalolam, the master of the world. The Ches is the seven heavens and one earth, and the four is the Daled is the four. The Daled equals four. The four directions of the world, and that's the idea of Hashem shining into the whole world. That's what we're saying when we're saying Hashem is Echad. He's the master of every entity here, and every entity here is here to reflect Hashem. And so we are infusing the world with godliness. So how does the world, which conceals Hashem, how does it become a vessel, a receptacle for Hashem? And the answer is that Hashem gave us the Torah. The Torah that we got from Moshe Rebbe. And the purpose of it is for us to use the Torah to bring holiness into everything that we come in contact with, refine everything, do mitzvahs with the items that are here on earth. We're bringing Hashem into it. We're bringing Hashem into the tefillin that we put on. We are shining Hashem into the animal skin. The tefillin is made out of animal's hide. And we're shining Hashem into this, into the animal. That Hashem we're revealing that the whole animal, it's all there to bring honor to Hashem. And so with the giving of the Torah, Hashem gave us that ability that that through the mitzvahs, and through the Torah and the mitzvahs, that we are making the world a dwelling place for Hashem. And the revelation of Hashem at the giving of the Torah gave the ability to continue refining the world afterwards. So the world, what does that mean? That means that when Hashem gave the Torah, we all lost our souls, left our bodies. We were so shocked. So what does that mean? We weren't really receptacles. We weren't able to handle the revelation. It was such a strong revelation. But you know what it did? It actually made us, it changed us. We got a mark in us. There was a mark that we were there at the revelation at Sinai. Our soul might have left our body, but at the same time, we became people that were empowered to do Torah mitzvahs. So the world on its own was not able to be refined. When Hashem gave the Torah, he made the world to be now empowered to be able to be refined. The truth is, we know that from the fact that Hashem broke the rules, that the heavens and earth were able to merge at the revelation at Sinai. That itself also tells us this idea that the heavens and the earth were able to merge together. It says Hashem came down on Mount Sinai, and he told Moses, come up from Mount Sinai, meaning heavens and earth were able to meet. We were able to merge and connect to each other. That means that the world was able to elevate, and Hashem's revelation was able to connect to the world. So even though the world wasn't really a receptacle, but it became empowered at the time of the giving of the Torah. And at that time, we were empowered to make the world a better place, and in a place ready for holiness. And this is the idea that if we take Moshe and we connect it with the word echad, which means the revelation at Sinai, Moshe, which gives us the ability to take Torah mitzvahs, and connect it with the word of echad, which means infusing the world, make the world a receptacle for godliness. That's how we bring Mashiach. So what does this mean in a practical sense? What this means is that there are two ways to become a better person. If you want to apply this to your life, one way is that if you hang out with very righteous people, guess what? You're not going to be able to, get involved in this thing, get involved in that thing, because you know what? You have these righteous people always hanging around you, and they're seeing everything that you do. And so you're not going to be able to, you're just not going to be able to start speaking certain words that used to be part of your vocabulary. You can't do that in front of them because, it's just not, it's below your dignity to lower yourself in front of these righteous people, right? So that's one way of making yourself a more refined person, is hanging out with righteous people. But then there's another way, which is internalizing your new refined way of living. You're changing your inside to become a better person. That is you've now changed. You're now a new person. The first way, you're hanging out with righteous people. I'm just giving it as an example. There might be numerous ways of doing this, but if you're hanging out with righteous people, you're really just changing. In this scenario, it's not changing you completely. You're not totally changed. You're not a new person. You're just in a situation that you've put yourself in a situation that's very healthy. It's a healthy situation you've put yourself in, which is great, but it's not fixing the entire problem. You're not totally away from it. It's almost like never getting angry. You used to get angry very easily, and now you never get angry. And the reason you never get angry is why? Because you don't you don't ever go to those people who used to make you angry. You never speak to them. And if they ever call, you don't answer the phone. So you never get angry. That's great. You never get angry. It's wonderful. But did you really change? No, you're a person who gets angry. You just don't have the situation has never came for you to get angry. So you've on the one hand, you don't sin at all because you never get angry and you never say anything wrong and you never really take it out on anyone because you never get angry. But at the same time, you haven't internally changed. The revelation at Sinai, the goal is all about echad. It's all about making everything, connecting it to Hashem. That's what really our whole job here on earth is to connect everything with Hashem internally, that we are people of Hashem. That it's not that we have some revelation from above, so it's making us we're not able to sin. No, we have revelations from Hashem, but we're taking that and we're using it to empower us to fulfill the mitzvahs in an internal way, that we become better people internally. So we don't get angry, not because we don't have situations that'll make us angry. We don't get angry because we have changed to another type of person that doesn't get angry, because we have full trust in Hashem, and therefore there's no reason to get angry. And even if someone tells us something that should make us angry, we don't get angry. That's what it's all about. We're taking echad, the oneness, Hashem, that is infused in every item in the world, in ourselves, and in everything that we come in contact with, and we are connecting that with Moshe, with the mitzvahs. We are, in other words, the Torah and the mitzvahs that we have from the Torah, from Moshe Rabbeinu, and we're connecting it with the idea of echad, the oneness, bringing the oneness of Moshe into the world, which is basically, I shouldn't say the oneness of Moshe. It's the oneness of Hashem that Moshe has shared with us. That would be the right way to say it. The oneness of Hashem that Moshe has shared with us, we connect that oneness, and that we're able to bring about the coming of Mashiach. So this this really gives us a picture of the world. What's the world all about? What are we doing here on earth? Well, how are we connecting? So we started this essay that was talking about how Moshe and Mashiach are very connected, but the idea which we explained, because Moshe, of course, they're both the redeemers, and Mashiach is continuing the job of Moshe. But how? How is Mashiach continuing? How is he the fulfillment of the job of Moshe? Because Moshe is empowering us to do the echad work, and Mashiach is the completion of that echad work. And that's why if you add Moshe and echad, you get Mashiach. Because if you add those numbers together, that's how you come up with Mashiach, and that is a beautiful understanding of what we're doing here on earth. Is we're trying to internalize all of the godliness, not only in ourselves, but in everything we come in contact with. Yes, Will. I can't hear you. You're muted. Will, did we lose? Oh.
I was once, okay, I started unmuted, but it fell back. So you talked about the sin of the golden calf brought us down. Now, do you say we have to bring ourselves up to a level for Mashiach to come? Or did you say that Mashiach comes and then our level goes up?
So we are bringing ourselves to a higher level during this whole time of doing the Torah and mitzvahs in a way of echad, internalizing, connecting Hashem with everything we come in contact with. We're elevating ourselves, and we will ultimately be able to merit we're going to be able to receive the revelation of Mashiach. In other words, we might not have been able.
Steps were all after the fact, after the tree of knowledge sin, after receiving the Torah, after the golden calf. This one is before the arrival of Mashiach.
Interesting so you're well, I think the idea is that in order to be able to receive this type of revelation, we need to make sure that we have to be capable of absorbing it. You know what it's like if you go to a trigonometry class, but you don't know mathematics, and you don't know the beginnings of mathematics, so it's a revelation that you will not be able to absorb the enjoyment of the intellectual stimulation of the trigonometry, because you don't begin to know what mathematics is about. But if you're a student of mathematics and you just haven't studied trigonometry yet, then when you hear a lecture from a big mathematician about trigonometry, you'll really enjoy it very much, because you're a receptacle, you're a candidate to understand and enjoy. The same thing as the revelation when Mashiach comes. We've got to be able to handle that type of revelation, the enjoyment of it. We need to prepare ourselves, and that's the mitzvahs that we're doing with the refinement of the world and the refinement of ourselves. Then we can actually enjoy the revelation at Sinai, revelation of Mashiach.
Did the Jews prepare in advance for the Torah at Sinai?
For sure they did.
Well, I know that's